Hello everyone, I'm John Bussard. I'm an HP Solution Center engineer for Ingram Micro. I help support servers, blade systems, storage, as well as networking technology solutions from HP. In this series, we're going to explore 3Par StoreServ solutions. What I plan on doing is showing you a popular slide from a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to demonstrate to you what that means within the 3Par management console. So what I've chosen today is chunklets. It's kind of a silly term, but it's one that'll pop up over and over again as you look at these presentations. It does accurately describe how data is spread out within a 3Par storage solution. So if we look at traditional storage, what you do is you grab a few drives, maybe create a RAID 5 out of them, and you start presenting data in your infrastructure to various systems. Right. The limiting factor of this is once we've selected those drives and maybe that RAID 5 set, we've kind of dedicated it to that particular RAID set. Also, our performance is limited by the amount of drives we put in that particular RAID set. When we use chunklet technology, we actually spread our data across all the drives within a particular solution. And by doing so, we also have the ability to look at availability in different ways. Right, so I could come in, create a policy in this environment, and the policies are set up to describe how we're going to lay out chunklets within the environment. These policies are also called common provisioning groups, or what will be abbreviated in the interface as CPGs. But at any rate, maybe we create a policy that's going to be a RAID 5. Right? What will happen is if I select this policy, right, as data comes in the environment, it'll start getting wide striped across all the drives. So the first drive will get a data bit, second drive will get a data bit, third drive will get a parity bit. But it wouldn't stop there, it'd keep on going. Fourth drive will get a data bit, fifth drive will get a data bit, sixth drive will get a parity bit, and it'd keep on going, data bit, parity bit, until all the drives are used, and it would start all over again at drive 1. I could come back and create another policy in the environment that would maybe be a RAID level 1. Right, so the first drive will get a data bit, second drive will get a parity bit, third drive will get a data bit, fourth drive will get a parity bit. And again, we do that over and over until all the drives are used in the environment, and we'd start back at drive 1 again. Right, so now I have the ability to do different types of RAID levels across the same drives in the environment. Right, it could also provide different levels of availability. What I've been describing so far has been called HA magazine, or drive-based redundancy. But I could also do HA cage. In the most rudimentary sense, right, I could set a policy that maybe again do a mirrored set and use HA cage. First drive shelf will get a data bit, second drive shelf will get a parity bit. First drive shelf will get a data bit, parity bit, data bit, parity bit, until all drives are used in the environment, and then we'd start at drive 1 again. Right. And I can mix and match this however I want to. Different RAID levels, different availability levels, it doesn't matter. So the drives get used in a variety of fashion based on the policies that I create in the environment. Again, those policies are called CPGs. All right, so let's look inside the interface. So this is the 3Par management console. You'll hear a lot of people describe the management console as kind of having an Outlook look and feel. As you can see, I'm managing two storage solutions. I'm managing a 7400 as well as an older F200. But up here I have my tree menu of items and some common actions based on what I select down below here. And this kind of curls over here. Right. This is my payload of information in the middle. Right. And then down below I have some new alerts as well as recent tasks. So within this interface, I have the ability to actually look at the chunks of data that exist. Now, they don't give you this view by default because that's really all it's really good for, is being able to look where these chunks of data exist. But if I go down here, and I select this arrow, and I choose buttons, and I select grid layout, and add that, and I'll add another item down here. And remember that this list just curls down here. So let's select that. Right, I'm going to expand out my 7400 series solution, and you can see that I can look at things via virtual volumes or common provisioning groups. So common provisioning groups, again, are the policies for how these chunks of data are placed within the environment. Virtual volumes are actually what I present to individual systems within an infrastructure. So let's select virtual volumes first, and I'm actually going to select all the volumes I have. So what we're looking at in this plane is this is going across a drive in the solution. Right, and these are actually the individual drives. Right, so you can see I got quite a few drives in this solution. Right. These colored blocks are actually the blocks that have some data on them. You can see some of this data exists on the inside of the disk, and some of it actually exists more on the outside of the disk. Right. So again, I'm looking at these blocks of data based on their virtual volume. So we can also look at them based on the policy that I use to be able to spread that data around, or the common provisioning group. Your system will come with some default common provisioning groups. You're more than welcome to use them. I've actually deleted mine in my environment and created 3 new ones. I think it helps the demonstrations go a little bit easier. But at any rate, let's select all 3 of these policies, slow, mid, and fast. All right, we can see how the blocks of data are spread out. Again, this is going across the disk. These are the individual drives in the solution. Some of my data exists on the inside of the disk, and some of it will exist on the outside of the disk. Right. So how do these policies actually get created? Right, so let's go down to provisioning. I'm going to expand out my 7400 series solution. You can see I have CPGs listed here, so I'm going to select CPGs. I get a summary screen, but we're actually going to take the CPG tab. Let's explore the CPGs I already have created real quick. So let's look at the slow tier. And look at the settings of this slow tier. I'm actually going to lift this up a little bit so you get more of a view. But we can see this policy is going to use nearline drives. That's the device type that I've selected. Nearline drives that are running at 7200 RPM. My RAID level is going to be a RAID level 6. It's using a set size of 4 data bits and 2 parity bits, which is what you would expect for a RAID 6. My availability is set up as magazine-based availability, so I'm protecting myself against drive failure. And then finally, my preferred chunklets is slow, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. If I look at my mid-tier, I'm using fast class drives or SAS drives that are running at 10K RPM. I'm doing a RAID 5 set, right, with a set size of 2 data bits and 1 parity bit. Quite typical for RAID level 5. And my availability is magazine-based redundancy. So again, I'm protected against individual drive failures. My preferred chunklets is fast. Finally, I'm going to select my fast tier. Again, I'm using fast class drives. So I'm using SAS drives that are running at 10K RPM. This time I'm doing a RAID level 1. Right, and there's going to be a set size of 2, so we need 2 data bits. My availability is cage-based redundancy. So this is drive shelf-based redundancy. So I could lose an individual drive shelf in this environment and my data would still stay available. It's easy to create these common provisioning groups, or these CPGs. So let's go ahead and create one real fast. I'm going to go up to this heading, right-click, and select Create CPG. I'm going to get a summary screen to start off with, and let me move this up a little bit. I'm going to click Next, and let's give this a name. All right, and then now we can start selecting our policies, my device type, whether I'm using fast class or nearline drives. If I had SSD disks, they'd show up in here as well. What type of RPM I feel like using. The RAID type I may want to use, maybe it's RAID level 5, and then the set size I'd want to use. I like to see advanced options, so I'm going to put the check mark in this box. Right, now we could see that we could choose my availability type, whether I want cage-based availability or magazine-based availability. So I selected RAID 5, so if you notice down below on here, it says system doesn't have enough space. If I did a cage-based redundancy, I don't have enough drive shells to be able to do that type of redundancy. So I actually have to do magazine-based redundancy. But if I did have enough drive shells, I could actually do a RAID 5 across storage shells if I felt like it. Okay. Now I can also choose my preferred chunklets, whether they're fast or slow. One of the things you're going to notice about this storage solution, you can either manage this very microscopically, or you can manage it from a 10,000 foot level. And to kind of explain this setting, a lot of database administrators like to have their data more on the inside of a disk rather than outside of a disk, because it does make their database a little bit faster because the armature doesn't need to swing as much. And that's actually what we're selecting here when we select fast or slow chunklets. Right? Whether those chunklets exist more on the inside of the disk or on the outside of the disk. Right? So I'm going to select that. I'm going to move forward. Now, because I selected the advanced options, I'm going to get this page. Right? So based on what I selected over here, that's actually going to fill in up here as far as my pattern is concerned. And if I actually went to a command line and wanted to create this policy, I'd have to plug in that. Right? But its pattern is going to be fast class drives running at 10K RPM. So if we notice down below here, right, we've only got fast class drives running at 10K RPM. I could further manipulate this if I wanted to. So again, managing this at a microscopic level or a 10,000 foot level. So if I can go in the filter, right, and if I wanted to, I could actually remove this. Right. Click apply and then click OK. You notice my pattern is actually gone now. And now I'm actually using fast class drives as well as nearline drives for this policy. So this wouldn't be a very good policy because now haphazardly my data chunks will be placed on all drives within the solution, whether they're fast class or nearline drives. It wouldn't be a great idea to do that because I get erratic performance. But I could go in and manage something like that, and I could actually limit things down by KH magazine, position in magazine, RPMs, and things like that. Right, so I could finitely manage the type of drives that I use in my storage solution. Right. And then after that, I could click next. This is a bad policy, so I'm not going to save it. So I'm going to cancel this actually. All right, and that's how those are created. Now, no storage is actually provisioned by creating these. These again are just policies for how my blocks of data are going to be spread out within the environment. Right. And what I do is when I create virtual volumes, I select these policies. So let's go over to virtual volumes, right click, and create a virtual volume. Again, let's move that up a little bit. I get a summary screen. We're going to move forward. Say hour, we'll give it a name, hour volume. All right, we're going to do thin provisioning. Talk a little bit about that later. I don't know, make it some small size, 6 gigs maybe. And then we're going to select the CPG that we want to use. And I'm going to select the mid tier for this policy. Right. I can also select another tier for the copy policy as well, and that's basically the snapshot policy. So if I wanted to have a different policy for the way my snapshots are placed in the environment as opposed to the data in the environment, I could do that as well. We're just going to leave it blank for now. I'm going to go next, and then we're going to finish. So now I've actually have that volume created. So let's actually select the volumes tab. If I scroll down, we can see the volumes listed there. So let's actually export that to a system. So export. Again, I get the summary screen. Right, got the volume selected over here. And we'll actually export it to this server right here. Next, and then finish. Right. Now I'm actually remoted into that particular system. So this is that system. I've got Server Manager already up. So actually, let's rescan disks. Yep, she hasn't showed up yet. Let's try rescanning again. There we go. So she's popped up. I'm going to right click, make it online, initialize the disk, create a new volume, finish, and then within a few seconds we'll have our new volume. So it's actually pretty simple to kind of create and provision storage out here based on policies or these common provisioning groups that we use within this 3Par storage solution.